between the years of 2005 and 2010 in the United States, suspected sex trafficking of minors went up 846%. I mean, I can give some stats that are thrown around, but I think as an illicit market, we don't really know maybe we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. You know, people talk about this being a $32 billion business in, you know, human trafficking, because those are numbers where like you're talking about 100,000 kids coming into it a year.
Yeah.
And then I think you fast forward and things are getting worse. And then you talk about an open border and there's no accountability on any of that. Law enforcement doesn't have the bandwidth, nor can they handle that. All these things have like been building up and leading us to come up with a better solution.
Welcome to Mic Drop, the podcast where relevancy is irrelevant and we don't give a shit about your feelings. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's an honor and a pleasure to welcome back my next guest to the podcast. He's been a guest on episode 11 way back in the day, so it's been almost 5 years now since we last sat down. Quite a bit's happened since then. I won't reiterate all the details. I encourage you all to go listen to episode 11 because it's several hours chock full of the entire background of his SEAL career and his transition out into what he was doing, which has led to why he's here now. He's the co-founder of Caim Technology, which is introducing and developed SpydrWeb, which is a database platform that basically incorporates machine learning and AI for child trafficking and predator type stuff. Speaking of predators, you are a predator. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the stage, Jeremy Mahugh.
I was telling somebody the other day that technically I'm an assaulter.
Is that right? Yeah.
but
you put the ass back in assaulter.
How you put that out there in the public today, you got to be kind of careful.
I know it.
All right.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so, you know, we'll kind of not gloss over, but just, I guess, kind of wrap up, you know, what we had discussed the last time you were on here. Your entire SEAL career was a big part of kind of what made you transition into the human trafficking
Let's
space.
be careful with the word transition these days. A lot's happened in the last 5 years again.
Yeah, that's no shit. Got to be careful with fucking everything. Not here you don't. That's the beauty of Mic Drop. Nobody gives a shit. So if you could kind of synopsize what it was about your time in the SEAL teams and then ultimately getting out and deciding that you wanted to get into the NGO child trafficking space and kind of how that all worked.
Yeah, for sure. I think that we, I spent probably a similar time to you, I think in the teams, 10 years for me, right? And then got out and lived in Montana for 3+ years, just digging holes in the dirt, running my little excavation business, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Except for in the wintertime, right? And when it's all froze over and I decided to start contracting to the one of the 3-lettered agencies, right? Yeah. Which now there's been a movie and book written about 13 hours. So that was my guys. I just did all my trips to Iraq and did that for about 5.5 years and enjoyed it. Really scratched an itch, and then from there jumped right into a political campaign with Ryan Zinke. You know, and since then he ended up becoming a U.S. Congressman in Montana, and as I got involved with that, I pulled myself out of this, what otherwise was I was going to go live in my cabin in the woods by myself and prepare for the end.
Yeah.
Somewhat on a prepper kind of deal, but just getting involved in the politics a little bit and seeing how, it's necessary that good people stand up and stand up for making good changes, despite, I think, politics being like the go to DC and lose your soul kind of deal. Yeah. But, we need more people to stand up and do good. And so then after that, a guy who was previously working at the agency as well had this idea of taking this methodology of fighting human trafficking like we fought counterterrorism, and this target-centric methodology to go after the bad guy. And I thought, for sure. And originally, maybe I mentioned this on the other podcast too, but originally we had this idea of like, we were going to go and rescue kids from other countries and bring them back to the U.S. That, I mean, a lot of these kids that had maybe got trafficked from the U.S. to other countries, bring them back and take care of them and all of that. And we started to realize more what the human trafficking issue actually looked like. And the more I got involved with that, the more I understood what the problem was. It becomes one of those things again, like how can you not be involved? How can you not help? How can you not give your talent and your effort to something like that? So I spent nearly 8 years working for, and you can go back and see the other podcast, but Deliver Fund was the nonprofit organization. And, I left there and for a host of reasons, and sometimes it's just time to move on, but we saw better ways to do this and saw what the challenges were, especially with a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And so, we started this new company, and we'll get into that as well. But, the reason that I stayed with it, even between the nonprofit to here, because there was a part of me that was like, I'm done with, being the guy where, I was a fundraiser too on the nonprofit side. So here I come, and everybody's like, oh, here comes Jeremy. He must be asking us for money again.
Yeah.
And that gets old, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, there's a lot of other cool things I've done in my life. You want to talk about those?
Yeah.
Or they're just like, hey, you still the guy doing the thing, the human trafficking thing? And I'm like, well, first of all, it's not the human trafficking thing. It's an anti-human trafficking thing.
Yeah. Are you still into human trafficking?
I'm not trafficking.
Yeah.
But either way, like that's is something where I feel like now that with the relationships that have been built through the political campaigning and the 8 years of being involved in this fight and just getting introduced into a lot of different circles, and then coming with a product that we can actually monetize and build a business and have real impact that we can scale infinitely into this with real prevention tools. Then I jumped back in and said, okay, I'm still all in on this mission.
Yeah. All right. Hey guys, I want to take a second to talk about ads. And this is not an ad. This is me talking about the ads. I know that, sometimes we get comments of people bitching about the ads. There's too many ads, or they're too long, or what have you. And I want to clear two things up, which is number one is that our team's ability to bring you guests and bring them in and the accommodations and the entire process that it takes to produce these shows to the level with which we do requires funding, and the sponsors give us an ability to bring these shows to you. So while I understand that everybody wants zero ads and everything bunched together and what have you, this is how we bring this show to you. We're a very small team. We're very fortunate to be able to do it, but we do still have to pay bills and bring that to you. So keep that in mind. That's the first point. And the second point is that I can assure you with 100% accuracy is that there is not a sponsor or a product that I talk about on here that isn't something that I use. Okay, that I either regularly use or always use or have used, and I refuse to budge on that. Okay, so we get offers for sponsors regularly that get turned down because it's not stuff that I use or would use. So keep that in mind. Have a little bit of flexibility in terms of our ads, and realize that they're products that I believe in, that I stand behind, and they're what make this show possible. So if you support these advertisers, these sponsors, that is supporting the show. Thank you. What are the two key components for canine success? That's effective training and proper nutrition. Fueled by Team Dog brings those two components to your family and best friend. The perfect nutritional balance that results in a higher mental acuity, energy, overall vitality, and even an improved appearance. Every product you will find in my company's store was born from the battlefield and not from the boardroom. Let my life's work help you become your dog's hero. I mean, it's I love to hear the dedication that you have to it, and to me, it's, I would say, especially impressive because, I mean, yes, I think most people, unless they're human traffickers, want to put an end to it and are pretty passionate about it. But there's a big difference between being supportive and passionate versus actually doing it. And you started it before you even had kids, and we're pretty heavy into it for a number of years. From a challenge standpoint, I'm curious, and I know a lot of people listening would be curious also. In terms of the challenges that you run into with a nonprofit that's a civilian organization with helping law enforcement, can you kind of speak to the hurdles and challenges that exist both with a nonprofit and even a for-profit company for that matter, but in the civilian sector, like from a jurisdiction and involvement standpoint? To me, it seems like that's one of the biggest hamstrings that exists, with people that want to do something but struggle to find out how. Can you kind of speak to that?
I think one of the larger restrictive points is always funding, right? I mean, and as a nonprofit, in some way you are in competition with all the other people that are talking about the same issue. And interestingly enough, now it's been, pushing 10 years ago when we started this. And I had just come off the political campaign, and I remember sitting in the campaign bus telling Ryan Zinke what I was going to do next. And I said, I think that with some of these connections that I essentially made through him, like these relationships that he had introduced me to, more political, but like these guys have real capability. I mean, some billionaire kind of people. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to tell them the story about child sex slavery kind of issues, and we'll raise $50 million real quick, because how could you not?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, how could you not raise a significant amount of millions of dollars just by saying this is an issue? And the way that actually worked out was the first year we raised about $150,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't really take. I think I got 10,000 of that to keep the lights on for my family, or for me at the time, it's not family. And then the next year we bumped up, where it was just under $500,000. And the next year was probably similar, around $600,000, and then for the total organization.
Yeah.
So you're 3 years into it, and like you can't function with that kind of. You can't function with any real impact.
Yeah.
You can talk about this impact that you're having, but ultimately the last year, so 7.5 years into it, like I personally had built a pipeline of people that were involved, and I personally had got well over $3 million into the organization that year. But you have these challenges, like you had 2020, all of a sudden, like that year we were on the rise, and then people, you're calling them up and saying, hey, you're still interested in doing that philanthropic donation that you were going to? And they're like, you know what, I just had to lay off all my employees, or this or that. And like, just, there's those kinds of challenges just purely on the like fundraising money in side. And then you go back to these donors and you have to say, we've grown, so can you give a little more?
Yeah.
Right? It's just it's a broken formula, and there's organizations that do pretty well. There's donors out there who give $1 million donations. Yeah. That's great, but you have to have a track record in order to do that. And it takes years to build that track record. And then, you're ethically responsible for, when you take that money in, to do what it is you said you're going to do. And, I saw a lot of pivots. One of the guys I worked with actually called them pirouettes. He was another team guy. But, these kinds of things, like you change and pivot because you see what's working and what's not working, and you're trying to always chase matching up what a donor wants to give to and what you think your mission is.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
Sure.
And then the other thing I would mention too is, like, at that organization, we decided that we were going to try and bring, a solution of equipping, training, and advising, specifically law enforcement. And one of the things we found out is, like, we were going to provide them with this basically case management tool that would tie their case to any other case that was specific to human trafficking, which is a pretty cool idea, because what I learned is, like, law enforcement's super siloed, and they have, in Georgia, I believe there's like 159 counties, if I'm correct, and none of them really talk to each other. At the time I was down there a few years ago, they're all siloed into their own, almost like good old boy kind of networks, right? And then on the state level, there's a little bit more, and then on the federal level, there's a little bit more, communication. But even those levels don't talk to each other. And so we thought we could have this product where we could allow, at least on the back end, an algorithm tie all of those cases together. Pretty cool idea. Law enforcement wasn't buying it. Even if they came to a class and they were like, this is good, they would go back to their departments and they would say, this is one more tool that we have to learn how to use, or case management that we have to input data into. And we already have 5, and it was too cumbersome, too much. And it just wasn't working, So that's in that specific field. That was one problem. And now we've created a solution, I think, towards that end as well.
With, I guess from a statistics standpoint, can you kind of talk to how big the problem is? I mean, and what role does kind of the research of you guys collecting that data on the almost passive side of just, seeing like what the numbers are? Like you mentioned, U.S. kids being trafficked overseas. Like, do you have your arms around like what the numbers are on that and just trafficking in general? Can you kind of talk to how big the problem is?
I mean, I can give some stats that are thrown around, but I think as an illicit market, we don't really know like maybe we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. People talk about this being a $32 billion business in human trafficking, but it's like, and that's a big number. But I think that if you look at what's happening just in the United States with our border being wide open, what we can look at is sex advertising. What we can glean numbers from is like the amount of sex advertising that's out there, and then attribution to that with human trafficking indicators. So we can say, here's all this data of what's being advertised for sex. Because what we do know is a lot of the human trafficking, just like, I know I talked about this before, but in the older days, you had a red light district in a seedy part of town, and you could drive by and you could see prostitution on the street. Now a lot of that has changed because of technology, right? And we've got a smartphone, so you can do business, any kind of business, from anywhere, anytime. And you can order sex just like you order Uber Eats, and have it delivered to your hotel room. So that technology has allowed that business to scale like exponentially. So one of the statistics that I use often is from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, because what they say really correlates with that technology development as well. So between the years of 2005 and 2010, in the United States, suspected sex trafficking of minors went up 846%. And so the numbers, so that was between 2005 and 2010. In 2014, they talked about having about 700,000 calls for missing children type cases, of which a lot of those kids were either found or they'd run away for the day, or who knows what had happened. But they still suspected that 1 in 6 of those was human trafficking related.
Wow.
And they also said within, I think it was 48 hours to 72 hours of being on the street, a child would be introduced, or somehow a sex trafficker would, that kind of predator would be out there, talking to them, trying to get them just from them being on the street. Yeah. So like, it's very prevalent. And I think what's happened even since then, I mean, because those are numbers where like you're talking about 100,000 kids coming into it a year.
Yeah.
And then I think you fast forward and things are getting worse. And then you talk about an open border. And with the open border, we don't even know who's coming in. So these are undocumented people. Maybe they end up on a sex advertising website, or maybe they're being sold by another person who's undocumented that came in, and there's no accountability on any of that, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so it's impossible. I mean, the long story short is it's impossible to know. It's 6 figures plus.
Oh yeah.
But it's like trying to fucking count grains of sand almost. Like it's just almost impossible.
The other really frustrating thing I think that we found out too was like, even if we were the best intelligence organization in the world and we said, here's an actual case, we built an actual case that's a slam dunk for every human trafficker out there. Law enforcement doesn't have the bandwidth, nor can they handle that in any way, nor is there the availability to prosecute it. So you couldn't even handle 10% of that.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. And so again, it's like a challenge. It's a frustration. You sometimes would build a really good case, give it to law enforcement, and they either wouldn't act on it or wouldn't act on it right away. Maybe it was too late by the time they did. There's a host of problems there. And so again, all these things have like been building up and leading us to come up with a better solution.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely get into the better solution. I would like to kind of go over some of the platforms used, the trafficking process, and then also talk a little bit about some of the government contacts that you have and any pushback or hurdles you've run into with like a national level department for anti-trafficking, which to my knowledge still doesn't exist, right?
The FBI, they have a unit that does human trafficking work. However, and I mean, you see the U.S. Marshals have been doing a lot more as well. I mean, they have these cases where you'll see like they found 30 missing children, in one state at a time. And, but what you find out is a lot of those are actually tied in. There's it's not just the U.S. Marshals. There's maybe other nonprofits. There's other federal agencies all kind of working together on some of those cases. The FBI does one big like sting kind of operation a year typically. And then different states are starting to pick up different things. And I think there's up to maybe about 19 federally funded task forces, and those are all in different states.
19, you said?
I think it's about up to 19 now. And so there's some money that's flowing in that direction. But let's put it in perspective, because when Trump was president, he put the most money towards this problem that any president had ever thought about putting. And so he pushed like $100 million, and everybody was cheering and saying, that's amazing, $100 million. If this is like legitimately like the second largest market or illicit market, right?
Criminal enterprise.
Yeah. And the other ones would be narcotics and guns. So it's right up in there. Yeah. I mean, look what we spend on narcotics.
Yeah.
And I mean, how's that going?
Yeah.
But we're spending billions and billions and billions of dollars fighting something like that. And when it comes to human trafficking, which is like our children's lives, and I'll probably say this again in this interview, but like when you really boil it down, what we're actually talking about is commercialized rape of children.
Yeah. Well, and it also, actions speak louder than words. Like where our government puts our money, irrespective of what any politician from, the lowest of the low in the Congress to all the way up to the president, no matter what they say that their priority is, the fact is follow the money. Like where you're putting money is what your priority is, no matter what you say, and that speaks volumes, unfortunately.
I've spoken to the Capitol Hill Club with a group of Congress people, men and women. And when I went there, I looked up what bills they had around human trafficking, and they had 22 bills on the docket that all involved something around human trafficking. Just in that time period, this is a couple years ago. But when you look at these bills that get put through, politicians want to have this stamp of like, I'm doing something about human trafficking. It's become a buzzword. The awareness has become a lot greater. So people really, the population is trying to demand something to happen. But a lot of those bills get passed, but they never get funded.
Yeah.
And that's to your point, right? Like follow the money. Like where's it? If you're not going to fund these kinds of things, and you're only going to talk about it,
then shut the fuck up about it.
Then stop virtue signaling about it. You know? Yeah.
Have you kept in touch with Zinke as far as trying to use that as a bridge from what you guys are trying to accomplish and solve the problem that we just talked about?
So last Friday, I'm in Montana, and they asked me if I'd come and speak at what's called the Pachyderm. It's like the Republican luncheon they do once a month. So I show up, and as I get there, they're like, yeah, we had you as the speaker. You had the floor, but Zinke asked if he could come in and give an update on the debt ceiling. Do you mind? I'm like, oh, not at all. So the good thing is he got to give his 10-minute update on the debt ceiling. And then he had to sit through my 40 minutes of my speech, and which was good. And I took some questions, and he had some questions, and so like he's he's a little bit more aware. That's probably the first time he's heard more of what I'm up to now.
Yeah.
And the great thing is, what do we have, like 5 or 6 team guys who are all, in Congress now, and a host of other military guys. And so I think that all of the people that I talk to in the government, they always want to do something. It's just they don't know what and they don't know how.
Yeah.
And so
to me, that's frightening. You're a fucking congressman, and if you don't know how to get shit done, then what are you doing?
You know what's interesting too about that, on a side note, is when Zinke first got elected, I went to DC for his inauguration, and I went through the offices, in the halls of Congress there, and predominantly it's run by college students or people that just got out of college.
Yeah.
And they're the ones writing the bills, reading the bills, and then the Congress person is so busy campaigning and fundraising that it never ends, and they just go to meeting, vote, and somebody else is doing the work, which is usually like a 22-year-old.
Yeah.
And you're just like, we have a bunch of 22-year-olds around our country. Is that what's going on?
Well,
I mean, that's what I felt like.
It seems like it. I mean, fuck. It's not a surprise. There's a bunch of fucking 60-year-old hood ornaments walking around, and a bunch of fucking left-wing dipshits that are writing all the bills and tricking them in, or they're not even fucking reading it and passing it, or a sex trafficking bill will have, or an anti-sex trafficking bill, let's be clear. We'll have 30 other fucking earmarks in it that have nothing to do with it that piss everybody off, and so it never gets passed. I mean, I don't know what the fucking solution is, but it seems like it's the same problem over and over and over with exactly what you're talking about, and that shit needs to stop, because, to me, having 5 team guys in Congress is great. But I would ask them and anybody else. It's like, okay, well, what are you doing? Like, what have you gotten done? And if the answer is, well, there's an excuse, our hands are tied. I mean, whatever the fucking case is, well, then say that.
Yeah.
Like if you're not able to get shit done, you're either incompetent or there's a reason why it's not happening. So why don't you fucking tell everybody why it's not getting done? Like, it's like nobody's fucking held accountable to the people that put them in that position anymore. It's always some smoke and mirrors, silver-tongued, bullshit that gets espoused out there that tries to snowball everybody, and there's never a fucking real reason given. I mean, have you run into that same thing, or has anybody? I mean, have you held their feet to the fire, or have you run into anybody that's given you like a legitimate reason or excuse that you can say, okay, I can see where the problem is, and I understand why you're not able to solve this problem? Because I haven't.
No, me neither. I mean, at the end of the day, there is no collaborative effort. There's just a lot of individuals that carry the flag for a day, and then they move on to all the other things that they have to deal with. And I mean, it's almost like the world that we live in today, the amount of information is coming at you that you can only deal with any one thing for 1 minute, and then it's like you got 1,000 other things to deal with. And I think the congressional people are in the same problem, where they get hit by everybody that wants something, and this is just one of those things, and it should be one of the biggest things. But I mean even when I was like working for Ryan, and I was running around the state, and I had, somebody came up to him, and he immediately passed him off to me because they had all these like pictures of chemtrails. And at the time we were just like, freaking chemtrails, like, what the hell are you talking about? And this person was like giving me this whole, conspiracy about chemtrails, and Zinke was like, you can talk to Jeremy. But it's like, there's people coming at you for everything all the time. Some things may be legitimate, some things may not be, but you have to try and weed out what is and what isn't. And you're just like, it's hard to get shit done.
Oh, I can understand that. I mean, to me, running a business is no different, I mean, I wouldn't say it's no different. It's similar. But to me, just look at the data. It's the same principle, in my opinion, as follow the money, in that it's like, okay, there's 3,000 people that are all throwing ideas at you and asking for you to, dedicate money, time, resources, manpower, bandwidth, whatever.
Prioritize it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, look at the data and say, okay, what are the 10 biggest problems in this country? Focus on those, right?
Yeah.
And tell everybody like that this is what's happening. Like, hey, data wise, the top 3 things that are killing people in this country are fentanyl, fucking child trafficking, and fucking sugar. I mean, whatever it is. And so this is what we're going to fucking focus on, you know, and all that stuff. I'm not saying it's not important, but just like an ER doctor in a triage scenario, like here are the arterial bleeders that our country has to fix, or we're not going to be a fucking country anymore. So we're going to dedicate time to that. You know, I'm sorry we're putting your project on the back shelf, or, you know, in the back seat, but once we have this handled, then now we can go to the secondary, tertiary, you know, whatever. To me, I think most people would have a lot more respect for that. I know I would. Like, even if I'm passionate about something that doesn't fall into the top 5 or top 10 things that are the biggest problems in this country, if somebody looked me in the eye and said, hey, I hear you, right? I know this is a problem. I know you're passionate about it. I want to help you. This is more important from the big picture, 30,000 foot view standpoint. We're going to focus on this. Help me unfuck this problem. Once this problem list is gone, then we'll tackle the fucking secondary list. Like, if somebody would just say that, I think everybody would at least have enough respect to be like, okay, I can do that. And then you have collaborative efforts, because now it's like, hey, here's the top 5 things that we all need to tackle to get to the other thing. Even if it's, hey, if you want, you know, your project done, you got to help me with this one first, you know, not just, oh yeah, fucking handshake and a smile. Yeah, we're going to knock that out and like promise everything and fucking deliver nothing. I mean, that's what it seems like happens. But I
mean, I don't have a lot of confidence in the government taking care of, you know, my problems. But I feel like the government should be able to put together a collaborative effort. And I bet you, just like on national security, where I know there's, even here in Dallas, there's a group of everything from billionaire businessmen down to admirals and generals, former military professionals, that all come together and they collaborate on advising the federal government on national security. Why can't you do that around human trafficking?
Yeah.
Bring some like real influential people with affluence and influence that can really bring in some money, bring in some ideas, you know, create an actual think tank that can do something and have a real impact. I mean, why haven't we done that? You know, and I think, again, like where we're going with what we're doing is, I would like to think that we can create a movement in which is going to push that forward. Yeah. And I think that as we do that, we can start to push awareness and information, correct awareness and correct information into the hands of millions of people. And in doing that, I think that once people understand what the real problem is, again, you can choose to get involved or not get involved, but like, you know, how could you not?
Yeah. I want to take a second to talk about something near and dear to my heart, and that is a staunch supporter of this podcast, which is Bub's Naturals. The hat sitting in front of me here on our coffee table here in the studio belonged to Glenn Doherty. His nickname was Bub. I did 2 platoons with him, and his childhood best friend and another colleague of theirs, Sean is the best friend, TJ is their colleague, started Bub's Naturals, which is a collagen and MCT oil company in Bub's or Glenn's honor. And, you know, for me, it's an absolute honor to be sponsored by and working with a company that, you know, was started in the honor of one of my closest friends and a guy that I went to war with. And, you know, the Bub's brand is not only super quality, you know, collagen powder as well as MCT oil powder, you know, but they also give back to the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation. They donate proceeds from their product sales to the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation, which, you know, to me just furthers, you know, the mission set on Veterans Day. They give 100% back. So I do believe it's the best collagen on the planet. I like to mix it in with morning coffee. The MCT oil powder, the same thing. It mixes in very easy. It tastes great, and it just kind of adds everything that you want to start your day off from a brain health standpoint, from joint support, gut support. You know, MCT oil and collagen are 2 components, especially as we age, that are integral components to health. And so to be able to work with Bub's Naturals and be able to work with them and sponsor a product that, number one, is a high quality product, and number 2 is is so near and dear to to my heart and to the Mic Drop podcast for who it was started for and what it stands for. It's just it's an amazing place to be. So it is Whole30 approved. It's sports certified, so you're not going to run into any problems with that. And I will say that right now they're offering 20% 20% off if you go to bubsnaturals.com and use the Mic Drop code. So I really highly encourage you to try it out, incorporate it into your day-to-day for joint health, for brain health, for cognition, for gut health, and to support an amazing organization that does a lot of things in Glenn Bub's honor. So go to bubsnaturals.com. Mic Drop is the code, 20% off. All right, guys, as you know, I'm into health and fitness and specifically how nutrition relates to it. Coffee has been a staple of mine and I think most people's for a long time. As you know, I'm a big proponent of Mudwater, which is a sponsor of this show. They have been for a while now, and we have a great partnership. I love their product. It's a phenomenal alternative to coffee. For me, coffee, there's jitters, there's mold in it. A lot of times it tends to kind of upset my stomach. But Mudwater has adaptogenic mushrooms. There's a fraction of the caffeine that coffee has. There's a little bit, but it's very, very little. And it really leans on mushrooms and the blend of matcha and chai for kind of that sustained energy that continues to go and doesn't crash the way coffee does when it runs out. They use lion's mane for alertness, cordyceps to support physical performance, chaga and reishi to support the immune system, turmeric for soreness, and cinnamon for antioxidants. I really enjoy that first cup of warm liquid in the morning by taking Mudwater instead of coffee, and I'll put just a splash of heavy cream or even some protein powder, some collagen powder, and I also throw usually a couple drops of stevia or monk fruit vanilla to make it kind of a thick, normal morning coffee ritual type of concoction. And I got to tell you, it does wonders for me, and I'm really, really glad that I switched. It's been, a better part of a year now, that I've been taking that and using that as part of my daily morning routine, and it's fantastic. I love it. I can't recommend it enough. It's 100% USDA, organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, vegan, and kosher certified, and they also donate to the Berkeley Center for Science of Psychedelics, which is groundbreaking and leading research to help veterans with PTSD and other associated illnesses and syndromes. So great cause, great company, phenomenal product. If you go to Mudwater, that's mudwtr.com/Mike to support this show and the product, and use the code MikeMud, MIKEMUD, all caps, for 15% off. That's, again, Mudwater, mudwtr.com/Mike, and the code is MikeMud, MIKEMUD, all caps, for 15% off. Go check them out. So speaking of that, like from a trafficking process standpoint, so that people understand, for those that don't, can you paint a picture of what the trafficking process consists of? I know that it varies, but like some of the classic examples or most predominant, as well as like the top several platforms used online and technology-wise that people are using. So for parents out there or concerned, family members, aunts, uncles, whatever, they can have an understanding of kind of what's going on and how it's being conducted, so that they at least have that to kind of look out for.
Well, like I said before, technology is really what's allowed human trafficking as a business to scale. Not only are human traffickers able to sell their product online, but also they're able to like groom online and locate targets, right? So I think first and foremost, as a parent, like, you have to know what your kids, what apps they're on, what devices they're using, and have access to that. And so you can see what they're communicating, who they're communicating with. I give you a couple examples from, again, our previous work, but we had a boy who was on a gaming station. And gaming stations, they're connected to the internet. So you're talking to somebody somewhere, but you don't necessarily know who that person is. And in this case, I think we had a 14-year-old boy who was talking to a 57-year-old man, but he didn't know that. And they built a relationship. So there was a grooming process that happened over a period of months. And eventually that man showed up in his town and got him to give him a text message, a cell number. And he was texting him and said, "Hey, I'm 2 blocks up the road. Come out and say hi. I'd love to meet you." The boy does. The boy gets thrown in a truck. Phone's tossed out the window, and he's in another state within 24 hours. And we were able to have one of our analysts work on that case, and the boy was able to get returned. But it wasn't just that man. That man was part of a network of other people. This case went to the FBI very quickly. So I actually don't know everything that happened after that. But
do you know how long he was captive?
For 24 hours.
They got him that fast.
The boy. The boy, he had this boy for 24 hours before. Yeah, and we got the, from the attorney general down in that state, got them involved very quickly. And it was a huge success, story.
But
that was a boy, and so we don't always think about boys being in that kind of situation. And we don't know what the number is, but I've heard numbers that's around 12% of this problem. So, I mean, boys are susceptible as well. But then on the girls, I'll give you a case that I still think is one of the most prevalent ones in my mind, because this was a girl that was in New Mexico. Her mother, in this particular case, her mother was a heroin addict. So her mother was willing to look the other way and get some free heroin, while her daughter, who was 12, was being sold for sex in the next room.
Dude, that fucking mom should be hung from a bridge. I mean, what the fuck?
It should, but what I found out is this is way more common than I could have ever thought. Like that exact scenario.
Thousands?
Oh yeah.
Jeez,
and
fuck,
now that I've got 2 foster kids, and I'm seeing the foster system from the inside, and seeing the people, these children who are in the foster system, and then why they're in the foster system. A lot of times there's narcotics from the parents is a big side of it, but these kids in the foster system are susceptible to this too, but also that's already why they ended up in the foster system. So, I mean, I literally was talking at that last Friday, like I mentioned, to this group of Republicans, and this older gentleman who was there, he said, "Wow," he said, "first of all, you're making me feel like a perp," because I was talking about CSAM, which is basically another word for child pornography, and not sending it, so he thought that sending a picture of his granddaughter to another family member, but maybe she didn't have a shirt off, and maybe she's like, a baby or something, thought that was child pornography. And it's not really, because it's got to be in a sexual act kind of deal. But regardless, he goes, "And my daughter is a heroin addict, and I'm worried that her daughter, she's doing that same thing for her." I mean, that was just random Republican audience that I was talking to. Man. And I think it's just so prevalent, and I've heard all these stories, but in that particular case for that girl in New Mexico, where that went from there is at 12 years old, she was being sold for sex. Her mom basically gave up on her at that point, and for the next 10 years, until we intervened and became an organization, intervened, for 10 years, she was sold to 10 different human traffickers, literally had ownership of her. And when we talk about human trafficking, we're talking about force, fraud, coercion. Obviously not being able to keep any of the profits of your labor, but also you're not doing it by choice. And in her case, she was being sold 6 to 20 times a day for some sex act. So you can imagine
12 to 22, a 10-year period.
Yeah. And so you can just imagine, all the trauma and PTSD and all the things that go along with that. But obviously she also became a heroin addict. And so she was taking uppers to stay awake, and then she's taking heroin. And we actually read her journal, and I mean, it blows your mind to see even the thoughts of that person.
Can you share an example, or is that like a privacy thing?
You want me to read it right now?
If you would.
Yeah, I think And maybe I had it on my laptop, so I brought this here just in case.
One thing I'm curious too, when you start, while you're looking for that, if you can chew gum and walk.
I got it. I'll tell you right now. So this is this is out of her journal.
And so this is the girl you were just talking about.
This is the girl I was just talking about. So I don't know. I think at this point she's probably 19, 20 years old. But she says, I mean, this is like how I think demonic this whole just pure evil this is. And this is just one page out of like a lot of different things. Some of these pages you could actually see where the heroin was kicking in and this writing turned into like a scribble and then just maybe she passed out, you know, but like this one is very articulate, but it's kind of like a poem. It says, I kill all of your friends. I ripped your soul apart. You'll forget where you came from, and that's just the start. I'm the best life has to offer. Try me, and you will see. Now that we're together, it's for eternity. Take a dance with the devil. I will sweep you off your feet. I will make you feel beautiful. I will make you feel complete. Now, once I've got you, I won't let you go, because now I'm the owner of your soul.
Jesus, man.
Like, how dark is that? And that's, and I mean, again, like,
I mean, to me, it almost seems like she's referring to heroin.
It's very possible, but I think having a conversation with her later, I mean, she didn't think that there was anybody out there that cared. She didn't think that there was an alternative life for her. She thought this was her life, and this is just what she had to do to survive. And it kind of was, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, especially starting that at 12, like there's such a skewed perception of reality, you know? I mean, between drugs and that environment, I mean, I can't even fucking imagine the mental barriers that exist. I'm assuming you've interacted with a lot of these children that have grown up that way, correct? Or some at least.
So the interesting thing about it, and I think some people mistake this a little bit, is, you know, we as an organization set out in the very beginning, we had some interaction with some of those cases where we actually had a little bit of boots on the ground, but ultimately what we realized very quickly was, you know, it's law enforcement's job, right? And as much as we want to be vigilantes and go out there and try and take matters into our own hands, you know, you have to get a successful prosecution at the end of the day is what matters in these situations. And so, you know, you don't want to interfere with any of that, and you want to make sure that law enforcement has what they need and they do it properly so that the prosecutors can successfully prosecute this case. And so the best thing you can do is provide data or intelligence to, you know, law enforcement so that they can action on
it. I guess the question I'm trying to get to is, I mean, you have interacted with some of these kids, right? Is there an obvious, immediate, apparent issue with them? Like, are some of them normal enough to where, like, if you wouldn't know unless you really started talking to them, or is it like, holy fuck, what's going on with this kid immediately, or like what are they like? And I know I mean, everybody's different, but from your experience.
So one of the things, I mean, we want to sometimes talk about like the child sex trafficking, but that child, while she was maybe 12 initially, eventually is 18 or 22. And we look at her as like a prostitute. But there's all of these things that have happened. And what's blown my mind is to find out that I believe it's like 1 in 4 girls, unrelated to human trafficking, 1 in 4 girls have been molested in some way. Like 1 in 4.
Yeah.
And those create psychological hooks that then a human trafficker can leverage, or anybody else, just somebody who's manipulative in any way. Some guy who just is trying to get a girl in bed is going to leverage some of those also sometimes, right? But like, what you don't realize is somebody's past. And predominantly, one of the things I've learned over the last 10 years is, as humans, all the issues that we have as an adult are driven by things that happen to us as children. And this is no different in the case of, you know, human trafficking. A lot of these kids were abused somehow as children. You don't just wake up one day and choose to be a prostitute and be out on the street. But when you are a prostitute out on the street or being sold, online or however that is being conducted, you are doing it oftentimes because you think that's your lot in life and that you're dependent on this trafficker. And you've got really what we call two kinds of traffickers. You've got the guerrilla pimp trafficker who's doing this out of force. And so you're just fearful of if I don't do this, they're going to beat me up or kill me or kill my baby that they have custody of or something like that. And then you have the Romeo style, right? Where if you really love me, you do this for me kind of style. And it's that Stockholm syndrome kind of deal a little bit, right? Where, so however it happens, these girls are talking to a guy who they're basically saying, I'm going to have sex with you, but they have to convince that guy that they're doing it of their own volition. And so I think it's kind of difficult to know for sure. I think it's be very difficult to know that that person that you thought was just a prostitute is not actually being forced, frauded, coerced, and has a whole history of things behind them that got them to that point, right? When you look at it from that angle, you look at it from just our hypersexualized world that we live in, and pornography is this, I heard a stat recently that 80% of men are addicted to pornography. And I mean, we're no strangers to that. We've been in the military. We've seen what that looks like, and how it's just kind of military, the government, guys who are alpha males. I mean, things are passed around, and it's not really thought of as like a bad thing necessarily. But when you start to correlate it to something like this, to human trafficking, you go, well, wait a minute. That girl who's in that film has a history, has a past. What's her story? How does she end up there? Is she being forced, frauded, coerced into this? All of these things tie together, and we've just somehow got to this point where we've normalized so many of these things. So when we interact with that victim, we're not really sure what to think, and we make excuses also of why it's just they chose that life somehow.
Yeah.
But there's all those trails that go back to being abused as a child or I mean, I can tell you some other stories too, but of kids that were sold in a country club, where this child was passed around to rich people in a country club, and there was a back door to the place where they, it's just you can't even imagine these things happening, especially in America.
Well,
But
it's like the Epstein stuff, right? Do you guys have access to the Epstein list? What's going on?
I saw your Fox interview where he said he did not. He said he did not hang himself,
but
which I would agree with.
Yeah, but that list as a good example. Why the fuck is that not public? Still, who the fuck is on that list? Clearly there are some big names on that list, and there's some people that were wrapped up into that if the general public knew to the extent with which they were involved, that it would, I don't know what would happen, but clearly there are enough people that are concerned enough about that to keep that from being public. And I don't know how with the world that we live in now, with, information being so easily accessed and things that, so many people, whether it's financial stuff or, whatever it is that they don't want out there, and how impossible it is to keep things from being released, leaked, fucking whatever. The fact that as popular as that is, and that fucking list still is not public, tells you everything you need to know, in my opinion. Yeah. I'm curious from your professional opinion, what is your take on it?
Man, I've had these conversations, and there's so much things out there that are conspiracy, right? But as we know, a lot of these things that are conspiracy are actually turn out to be true.
Yeah.
So, we sit in this crossroads, and it's do I believe that, there's this political elite class who's super involved in pedophilia?
I do.
At some point, I know some of them are, because we're finding out about some of those things. But when you tie it to something like this with Maxwell and Epstein, it seems pretty clear that it's maybe not just a political class, but or politicians, but there's obviously elites that go all the way up to royalty, who are who are manipulating and pulling strings. And then again, like, I mean, I was so disappointed, and I had a lot of respect for Bill Barr, you know, as the Attorney General. And I mean, he kind of got pulled in. He took the quick look and said, "Yep, I see no evidence that you know, there was anything nefarious here that happened with, you know, Epstein." And somehow he just randomly was able to hang himself in the place that he was put so that you could not commit suicide in that place. Yeah. You know, I mean, it just is nonsense. And then, like you said, now you see it roll a little further forward. And, you know, so Maxwell, what's her name?
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah, I can never say that name. So she's got, what's the deal with her? I mean, she's been prosecuted, but for no actual definitive, like, for human trafficking, but never naming who was trafficked.
Yeah.
You know, and to whom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, think about all the other examples that have taken place in the last, we'll say, since you've been on the show, of things that very powerful people would not want to be released, that couldn't keep it from being released. There's fucking dozens of examples.
Sure.
You know, this, assuming that it's on both party lines, and that's why there's a concerted effort to keep it quiet, somehow manages to fucking, from a crypto standpoint, is uncrackable, and nobody has access to it. Like, to me, that's so beyond baffling and ridiculous in today's day and age, that it's clear that it's not an accident, that it's not anything other than that there are enough people who are powerful enough don't want that list to be released because they're fucking on it. You know, I mean, it has to be that simple. Like, and I would ask anybody, give me a logical explanation as to why not then.
Agreed.
You know,
I mean, it is one of those things that I don't think that we're going to get the answers that we're looking for, but that's, like you said, that's the answer in itself.
Yeah. Shit drives me fucking nuts. The question that led to kind of the full scope answer that I'm curious of, have you interacted with any younger, we'll say like under 14 victims that were there for maybe a shorter period that you have you ever interacted with kids that young?
I've not. I've always had a pretty arm's length separation from that, because usually it's law enforcement. There's some organizations that kind of come in to do that, but it's a very quick turnover from law enforcement doing a sting type operation, getting that child and then turning them over to usually CPS.
I guess what I'm curious of is that, you know, for kids that have that happen and don't go all the way to where they're, you know, in their 20s, that maybe get recovered after a year or two and they're still young kids, like, how logical or reasonable is it to not expect but hope that they would kind of make a full recovery? Is that even possible? You know, like, can they recover from that emotionally, mentally, to a point where it's like that they can live a normal life, have normal you know, relationships with the opposite sex or what have you, and it not impact them day to day? Like, is that even realistic from your experience?
So I'll take it a little bit to a more religious standpoint, just because in my experience in talking to victims who have become, not, I don't know if the right word is rehabilitated, we would say that instead of being a victim, now they're a survivor, or even, you know, they're a thriver. But I think that in order for them to be able to overcome that victimization, which is, I mean, we're, as being from the veteran community, we have a certain idea of what we think PTSD is, right? And what causes that. But any kind of trauma could cause that. It doesn't have to be from something we experienced in the military.
Yeah.
If you are raped at any age, you're going to have PTSD. And so whether you are on a college campus and you're raped one time, has nothing to do with being human trafficked, is that going to affect you the rest of your life? Probably, unless you find some way to deal with it and some sort of ability to talk about it. And what I've actually found out that's been wild is over the years, as I've been talking to groups of people, I'd have a lady who'd come up to me who's 70 years old, and she'd be like, "I've never told anybody this before." And and I don't even know why she's telling me, but she was like, I was raped in college, or I was raped, and I've always kept that in, and I didn't tell anybody. But I think that there's so many, like I said before, if like 1 in 4 women at some point were abused somehow, then that's massive. So where I go with that is like, what I've seen is you can go see a therapist, over and over and over. I just don't know that that's necessarily going to pull them out of that situation, because they're always going back to how I was victimized somehow. I think that on a more religious standpoint, humans in general have a hole in their heart that they're trying to fill with everything all the time. And I always say it's a God-sized hole. And the victims who have found faith, found Christ, have filled that hole, have overcome in a way that I don't think is paralleled in any other way.
Wow.
So I do think there's hope. Me personally, I do the same thing. I put my hope in Christ, as a Christian. And I think that that's the only place to find hope, especially in the world today. I think that's spiraling downwards. Yeah. So I think that's for these girls, for these women, for anybody, is kind of the same answer.
Yeah. It's a great answer. I appreciate the insight. And I guess for me, where I would be the most concerned is the younger, the harder it would be, because it's like with combat, as an example, not that at 18 you're really a grown man, because you're not. I mean, to me, it's really closer to 30, but as you get older, the mental and emotional resiliency that you possess, and which increases as you get more and more experience, I think allows you to be more capable of enduring certain things that are pretty fucking terrible.
I'll give you a really, really tragic statistic that I'm only getting from somebody who's a dark web expert and spends a lot of time on there, specifically in these kinds of chat room and kind of places that he was tracking down. And he said that the most searched age for children to do sexual things with is actually infants.
What?
Like 0 to 6 months. Like, it is the most evil thing that I've ever heard.
That's the most fucking searched.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
On the dark web. That's what, and there's whole chat rooms and places where they provide content. Some of these rooms, they actually, in order to go on the dark web and to get into certain of these chat rooms, you actually have to provide illicit material in order to be able, and it's one way they can keep law enforcement out of it, because it'd be illegal for law enforcement to even have that in their possession, let alone be posting that. And in some of these, it's required that it's new material, so they can check and be like, oh, that's an image that's already been out there. That's not even new. You're not allowed in this chat room. So somebody has to have new content of sexual acts with a child to even be allowed into these chat rooms.
Are there... Dude, my fucking head's gonna explode. Are there?
We can stop and take some whiskey shots and then reconvene, because it's that heavy, right? I mean, it's like.
I mean, are there? So, like, when something like that is discovered, forgive my ignorance on the dark web and the inner workings of it, because I don't get it. But like, for you to know that stat, right? Obviously, there's a law enforcement or some sort of gatekeeper organization that has come across that. So like, when they come across a group like that, is it impossible to dismantle or find out who these people are because of the nature of anonymity that exists?
So this particular, when I discovered this, the person who told me, I mean, this is what he does. He's got it's similar to the guy that Sean Ryan just had on his podcast, which is Ryan Montgomery, who's a ethical hacker guy that was, I don't know if you listened to that, but he talked a lot about dark web type stuff. So there's another guy years ago that I talked to, and he was involved to a point where he actually had a law enforcement officer in another country, and this law enforcement officer had infiltrated this chat room in this dark web chat room where it was all child pornography stuff. And when he got in, originally I think there was like, I mean, it was not big. It was like, there was like 500 people in there. And within 6 months, there was like 50,000. And this globally, like, so there's people in every country that are all putting that content in there and joining this chat room, like massive scale within a short amount of time. So the law enforcement officer is in a situation now where the reason that he had got in there, actually, he'd arrested the guy that was running the chat room, and that guy had terabytes of content. And so he could maintain this for a while, but then you come into a real ethical question of like, okay, you're maintaining this chat room to see who else is guilty, and you can get in there.
Perpetuating it. But
you're also perpetuating it. Yeah. And also, I mean, it goes a whole bunch of deeper levels, but that's what the government said, look, they became aware that this is what he was doing. They said, you have just a little bit short time left, and then you got to shut it all down. Yeah. And they did. And the article came out, gosh, it was probably 6 years ago. But again, 5 or 6 years ago, and these things are just skyrocketing from here, you know. And
do you know, I mean, for all those people that were involved in it, were they able to track a lot of them down?
They did, not all of them, but they did a sting operation, and they did multiple countries. So I'm assuming that Interpol, you know, was involved, and like they had multiple countries all, and the United States had the majority of those arrests and those people that were involved in that.
Fucking sickening, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes you wonder, like walking around at fucking Home Depot, like who amongst the fucking wave of people that you run across every day are these fucking sick, twisted bastards?
I mean, I sit in church and look around, and not to be judgmental, but you just wonder, when you know these things that happen that are just like pure evil, and you know people are putting on a facade of being holier than thou on one side, on another side, they're on the dark web doing stuff like that. And you see the cases that come out, and you see like people that get arrested, and you're like, oh, it was a pastor, it was a school bus driver, you know, like you're like,
yeah, like people that would otherwise come across as very normal, ordinary citizens that you would never think were involved in shit like that. You mentioned gaming systems being one of the primary means of communications, which makes sense if you're trying to find children. What are some other platforms? I'm assuming Snapchat and TikTok are real big, right?
They are. So Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, any of these social media platforms.
So pretty much all of them.
Give access. Plus, a lot of these kids don't use any privacy settings. Why? Because they want a lot of thumbs up and likes for whatever they're posting.
For dopamine.
And so, yeah, exactly. And so, speaking of which, have you watched that show, The Social Dilemma?
Yeah. It's fucking wild.
Yeah, super wild. But I mean, that's the world these kids live in. And so they're trying to get...
Yeah, it's a drug. I mean,
it's a drug, and they're willing to put anything out there, and then it allows access to people who are predators, right? So...
Yeah, I mean, it's a predator's fucking Disney World, you know, for sure, because it makes it so stupid easy to take advantage of these kids. And I mean, I've talked about it. I had Eli Crane on while he was running for Congress. And one of the ideas I threw his way, which I've seen some similar traction, at least being talked about within the upper echelons of government, of mirroring driver's licenses for social media profiles. And I get the desire for anonymity and you know, why that's important for certain people. For me, you know, I view it very simply as that it's a, you know, picking what's more important. It's prioritizing. And to me, something as simple as saying, okay, to be on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, any of them, Twitter, you name it, is that you have to be verified that you are who you say you are, the same way you do getting a prescription, because it's a fucking drug, same way you do for alcohol, for boarding a fucking plane, for driving a car. And you don't get to do that until you're 16, right? So from 16 to 18, you have that 2-year period of tutelage, we'll call it, under parents, the same way you do driving. Or 14 to 16 for a driver's permit. But so if somebody is posting something on any of these sites, right, you know who it is, right? It's verified. Like your driver's license number can piggyback onto your social media profile, And it can be the same fucking number. You can use your same picture that you do on your driver's license. No filters, no bullshit, right? That's who you fucking say you are. So at that point, like, to me, is that going to fix every problem? No. But it's going to fix a lot of them, because now at this point, like, if a 9-year-old is on TikTok, then your parent, like the parent is allowing them to use their account. Either way, like, there's an account that's verified that's using it, like there's no way around that. Obviously, it would take a significant level of involvement from all of the social media platforms, which for sure they're not going to want to do, because it's going to monetarily, it's going to kick them in the nuts enormously. I don't give a fuck. I mean, to me, that is one thing. I mean, I'm not a fan of the government being involved in our lives, but that is one area where, smartphones and social media have been around long enough to where the data is very conclusive. How detrimental it is to young kids, and the younger, the worse it is. And so to me, that would fix a lot of problems. Then there's also not the anonymous trolls that are threatening people, and all of the bullying online that kids are killing themselves over. Like, a lot of that would go away. If you don't get to even be on social media till you're 16, and if you are, it's because you're using somebody else's verified account. Yeah. Like, that's holding everybody accountable. Now, like, if you're letting a 9-year-old use your shit as a 17-year-old, you're in fucking trouble. I
don't remember the amount, but when Elon bought Twitter, they announced, I think, I don't know if you guys know either, but like the amount of bots that were on there.
Yeah, it's
and
millions.
Whether it's like Russian or Chinese or just random people, but like there's no verification of who's who and who's saying what.
Yeah. And to me, there should be. Yeah, there just should be. I mean, again, like, I get that the whole free speech thing, but you have to look at it from a standpoint of prioritizing. And to me, like, I've brought this idea up to a few different people in different positions that would be able to actually at least get that in front of somebody. And some of the pushback is, well, there's really no way to really implement that, and the technological challenges, blah, blah, blah. Like, to me, if you have to verify what you have to verify for me to wire money online, like, you can do it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, if banks can do what they do with making it such a pain in the ass just to check my fucking account from my phone, and a pain in the ass in a good way, then it's possible. Is it going to be perfect? No. Are there people that will find a way around it? Yes, but it's going to be really fucking difficult to do. Yeah. And it would cut a lot of the bullshit out. One of the things you mentioned, the foster organizations running into problems. I'm curious. I don't know what the stats are. I don't know if either any of you guys do. When I say any of you guys, two of Jeremy's business partners, cohorts, are sitting in the studio as well. We may drag them in here in a minute. But one thing that made me think of is that, like, it would be a challenge for a foster organization to be the gatekeeper of people who are, just like, humane societies with pets, is that, like, the sifting through and the vetting process, I think, would be very challenging to keep people from trying to foster, 10, 12, 14-year-old kids for the intent of using them in that same fashion. That has to be a fucking problem.
So my wife and I went through this, like, background check, right? That was all we had to do. We had to sit on because it was during, like, this ongoing pandemic of we didn't have to go and sit in a class. We for like 4 hours had a video presentation of which you could be on camera or off camera for, and you listened to them talk about some stuff about the foster system. And then we did a background check. We had to fill out a lot of paperwork, but again, to the whole point of why we started this company, Caim Technology, to do this data, is to provide that kind of data to somebody that's doing that kind of background check. Because what they don't have is this person advertising anything for commercial sex? Do they have any link to that? Because if they do, they shouldn't be a foster parent, and they should probably be, prosecuted.
Yeah.
But this is the real problem that we have, and just seeing, like, how that worked. And then we got a call for some kids, and they basically said, "Hey, we've got a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old," and we said, "Sure, we'll take them." Like,
are they siblings?
They're siblings, and so we said, even though we have basically a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, we said, yes, like how could you not? These kids are in a situation, you need to be there but we didn't get a lot of details of like issues that they might have or anything else besides that. And so, but I'm sitting there going like, wait a minute, like it was that easy? Like we could just get kids dropped on a doorstep and they drop them off and they walk away, and like it's up to us to parent them in a righteous way.
Yeah.
Like, again, what about the person who's a predator? Like, it just makes you think about how easy it would be to take advantage of that system.
Man, that's fucking sad. I mean, I don't want to make assumptions. I can only assume, though, is it because they're so overwhelmed that they're just like, holy fuck, like they're just bursting at the seams and they're trying to get kids to homes, and that's the problem?
These kids showed up on our door and with a backpack. You know, each kid had a backpack, and that's it. And then their parents are split up. There's issues of violence, narcotics, and mental health issues. And so really on both sides. But we were not told, what we were told is like they had like one visitation with their parents like a week. And then as soon as they showed up, they said, well, actually, we're going to do 4 visits with the dad and 3 visits with the mom every week. Oh, and so now not only do we have to facilitate that into our schedule, but we also have to coordinate that with the CPS workers, and they have to coordinate, because if we can't drive them to town, the CPS workers have to come and drive them, plus be there for a meeting, which is going to be 3, 4, 5 hours sometimes. And it's just like, they are so overworked that a lot of those visitations with the parents get canceled because there's no CPS worker to be there to facilitate it, let alone drive them back and forth here and there, let alone anything else that they're trying to do, let alone how do you get good people in that job to be a CPS worker? Yeah. You know, I mean, there's some good ones. There's some really good ones. And I commend anybody who's doing that and just trying to be, again, stepping forth to help that kind of a dark problem. Yeah. But there's also some really lazy ones. I mean, let's talk about government workers, right? Yeah. But there's some people who are just lazy, but when they put those kids in a situation that's so unhealthy for the kid, that kid never has a chance to settle in a new home that's just unrelated to all the problems that they're trying to be separated from. The judges kick the can down the road and say, well, let's just try it out for another 6 months, you know? And these kids just don't get a chance to settle. But either way, like, you're right, like them dropping these kids off, who are they dropping? They're desperate for families that will take them. The CPS workers aren't necessarily monitoring. I don't think they're monitoring like the social media of those foster families, because they're not even really monitoring. Every once in a while, they'll look at the social media of the parents. You know, our kids are too young to have social media accounts, so they're not posting anything on there. But even kids that are a little bit older, I mean, they don't know where to look. They don't know how to do a good job at vetting this out. And there's a lot of problems within that system, and you can just see how easily it could be taken advantage of. So again, there's another reason why we started Caim Technology, to get at least, you know, something that could be, whether you're applying to be a Sunday school teacher or a foster parent or anything else, this should be data that should be part of a background check to hold people accountable.
Yeah. Well, so I'd like to get into that, because if you look at, the years you spent with Deliver Fund, the law enforcement challenges, the foster challenges, parents challenges, it's kind of all of the same issue and hurdle that you run into is that it's an inability to really keep track of and know what's going on. There's pushback from the government or a lack of movement / involvement. Penalties aren't stiff enough for people who get caught. We talked about that on the last episode of how ridiculous some of the penalties or most of the penalties, frankly, are for people that are getting rolled up, and such a broken judicial system as it relates to punishing those people and incentivizing them to not do that shit. So it sounds like with this company that you guys started, you kind of came at it from a different angle to say, okay, hurdle after hurdle after hurdle, it's all kind of the same, running your head into the same wall with all the things that we just discussed. So we're going to kind of take it from a different perspective or a different angle, and enable people with a tool that allows them to kind of be their own guardian that way. Is that fair assessment?
Getting back to that, sustainably, philanthropically funding something, problem. Law enforcement acting on something, problem. Prosecutors being able to prosecute, problem. Hypersexualized world we live in, problem. Pornography being 80% of men and a large percent of women actually too have, even porn addiction.
That's surprising.
I know if we could go back in time to our younger years, we'd probably wish that it was higher. But, again, like I'm trying to be a better Christian man these days than I probably was when I was in the Navy. So things change. But I think like you take all these problems and we looked at it and we said, look, if you could find a solution that you could democratize down to an individual consumer and put a real prevention tool in the hands. And again, I know you've got daughters, and like, this is something that if my daughter right now is 2.5, but eventually I want her to have access of safety and transparency into whoever she's interacting with. And I want that same safety and transparency as a parent to know who she's interacting with. And I want that kind of data source. And so, yes, governments need that and should be utilizing it. Yes, corporations need that and should be utilizing that. And the government should be mandating that corporations are using that kind of data and holding people accountable and not doing business with people who are involved in illicit activity, right? Because at the end of the day, this commercial sex business is illicit.
Yeah.
So if we could create a tool that would be that prevention tool, and it will also be able to be monetized in a way that's sustainable and can scale with, to have a massive impact, then we can have a real solution. And so that's where we started. I mean, Greg is here with me, and he's our CEO, but previously he sat on Airbnb's council for trust and safety, and seeing like as a platform like Airbnb, like what they're doing or not doing about these kind of issues, because actually VRBOs and Airbnbs get used just like hotels do, but it's almost easier if you're a human trafficker. I just ran an Airbnb. It's in a gated community,
no
right?
Cameras.
Nobody knows the difference. There's no cameras. Like people can come in, park in the garage in a gated community, like give them code. I mean, all these kinds of things, right? Matter of fact, I was in Augusta, Georgia, and talking to law enforcement there. And when they do their big golf tournament for the Masters, it's like a week of everybody that lives there leaves, and they rent out their house because they can rent out their house for like $30,000 for the week.
Yeah.
But what happens in that house while they're not there, people are coming to town to party, and they're all kinds of stuff. And so human traffickers also, leverage that whole system. And it's really difficult for law enforcement to be able to go in there and go into a private residence and say, I'm coming in,
So a hotel has cameras, it has staff, it's a public setting, there's other people there.
Right. So we basically took it to this step to go a little bit further and say, well, what if an Airbnb host who actually owns the property, and I'm an Airbnb host, I don't want that kind of activity happening on my property for multiple reasons, right? But I would pay $10-15 a month to have that monitored, to make sure that, I have a liability as a small business owner owning that property and renting it out to somebody, that's not happening there, that illicit activity. But also, just out of the moral decency of my heart, I want to make sure that that's not happening, that I'm condoning that in any way. So I would gladly pay that. But if we take it one step further and we democratize it down to, again, an individual consumer, and we say we can put this now in a mobile app. So basically what we've done is we've created this database, this platform, and through this platform, you kind of think of it like a Google search for commercial sex advertising. So there's all these different websites, and you kind of asked me before about, different websites where the main ones. And 5 years ago, probably when we talked, I guess in 2018, Backpage.com was the big prolific website that everybody knew was the escort ads, sex trafficking kind of, or sex, commercial sex advertising website. They got taken down, and actually we're in Texas now, and the Attorney General Paxton was a big part of that. But long and short of that is all of those people posting on that scurried like cockroaches to all these other different websites. Some of those have servers off seas. Some of them have servers, in the U.S. We're tracking on hundreds of those websites now, which is, to put it in perspective, that's like some of the larger organizations that are looking at child trafficking are looking at like less than 10 of these sites. And we're not just looking at like certain stuff. We're collecting everything off there. And then we're doing an attribution level of like, it's not just commercial sex, but there's known indicators of human trafficking. Yeah. And we can say whether it's an emoji, whether it's a 4-letter phrase that somebody uses that means something, or whether it's a tattoo in a photo. We can crop those out, and we can say, and then we can use machine learning and AI and get it to the point where we now can have this database with attribution to human trafficking and actually give it a score, and then have your daughter have it monitor, our app monitor her apps, and red flag anytime she's interacting with a nefarious character that would be a predator.
Man, that's fascinating. So to me, again, like in thinking of the challenges that have existed historically with, like you said, this back page, like, okay, you find it shuts down and they go to somewhere else. Like, so instead of having to do the cat and mouse game, which is historically what's been taking place of, oh, we found this, we shut it down, we found this, we shut it down, we do, you're kind of taking it from a different angle, as you're putting the ability to be a gatekeeper on the individual themselves.
It's really twofold, because again, we're allowing access at different levels. So government has access. Matter of fact, we have an app that's coming out real soon, that's going to a pilot program with Florida, and it actually has the facial recognition component too, right? Because a law enforcement officer could take a picture of a girl on the street and see if it pops positive anywhere in our global database of all the commercial sex advertising that's out there.
Yeah.
And so like, that's a big deal, because immediately, I mean, even if you pulled somebody over and you said, it seems like maybe there's a problem here, but let me get a photo or get some other piece of information from that passenger who you think might potentially be a victim, and run it in our database. Boom. Now now you have probable cause, right? So that's a really big deal to help law enforcement. And it's not something that we're trying to get them to input data into another database and adopt a whole new system. It's like, hey, for a few bucks a month, you can have this on your phone. And, there's different ways that we can deploy it to them, but like, that's a real win for law enforcement.
Yeah.
And it's a win for policymakers, because they're trying to make policy right now with less than an eighth of the data that we have.
Yeah.
So to be able to have that kind of data, you can make better policy, you can understand the market better, you can be involved in a lot of other ways that are going to be more impactful. Plus, for us as a company, we're monetizing it in a way where, one, it's a great investment, and we're still taking a few investors, so there's that.
Yeah.
But it'll be a great investment. And on the other hand, you've got a tool that's a prevention tool, which I think is like one of the most exciting things, because now you're keeping that girl from getting in a situation where she's going to get raped, or she can cut it off before something bad happens. But you have, through this app, we have a resource center, and we can be pushing awareness, and we can get this in the hands of, our goal is to get it in 1 million users as fast as possible. And I think there's 1 million mama bears out there that would want to have it alone,
There's
right?
Probably tens of millions.
Tens of millions. Yeah. And so we've got to do some good marketing to get it out there. But just, yes, it's a prevention tool, but also through that we can be pushing the awareness, the articles, the solutions, the other solutions that exist, to keep your kids safe on the internet. All of these different things that people like are looking for and need. We've got a one-stop shop that for $7 a month. Not only are you fighting human trafficking, like crushing it, but you've monetized something that can be scaled up. And then, we actually are going to give dollars from our company to our foundation, which then empowers other organizations who are having a hard time fundraising, because I know how hard it is.
Yeah.
And we'll push money out to those organizations that are doing good work.
Dude, that's fucking awesome, man. I'm really excited for what you have going on and super proud of everything you've done. Two questions I have from that, what you just talked about. On the law enforcement side, has there been any hiccups or difficulties with, like from a privacy standpoint of the facial recognition, and is there any gray area there that has hampered your guys' ability to develop some of this, whether it's for them? I suppose not as much on the private side, because a parent with a minor, it's like, there's no issues there. But have you run into any problems with that?
Yes.
I mean, because I think it's great technology, and I agree it should be used, but I can also see the other side of the privacy
aspect. Privacy. So we spend a lot of money with our attorneys because data privacy is a big deal. And there are certain states that have different rules around laws around biometrics.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about facial recognition, you're talking about biometrics. And there are certain states where we cannot collect certain things or not, provide those, provide access. And if you can't provide access, you may as well not even have it. So also what I found out, which I didn't know, is Europe has a lot more stringent laws on data privacy, but also especially around like biometrics.
Except in the UK, apparently, because they're fucking terrible there.
Yeah, well, if the government's doing it, but that is an interesting thing too, because we're going through some application processes right now in some of those areas, but they're kind of like our attorney said, they want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. They're just like, nope, we're not doing any of this, because even if there's something good in there, we just don't want to have anything to do with it, because they look at it from a different level. But I think really in the United States, we accepted on 9/11, we accepted with the Patriot Act and all these things, like our data and our privacy is, it's up for national security to say when and where, and so we've gone that far with it in the U.S., but Europe hasn't.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting. So long story short, state dependent, you guys have a team of legal experts that help navigate that so that you guys stay kind of within the parameters of the law, basically.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of information that we can collect everywhere, except for certain countries. I mean, again, we talk about some of those countries, but
And again, to me, like I think that's a great use. Of all the things that machine learning and AI have potential for, to me, this is one of the best applications that I can think of that I would be behind. And again, I'm very libertarian as far as civil liberties and things of that nature, but I do think that just makes good fucking sense.
There's another piece in here that's interesting too. As you mentioned AI, and there's have you heard the term deep fakes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like it's gotten crazy. And I was talking with Marcus Luttrell recently, and we were talking about AI, and I said something where may not be totally true, but I had heard that AI has become sentient. So it's like become self-aware. In other words, it can like determine what's in its own best interest, and that's what we worry about, right? Because then it's going to eliminate
Terminator 2
humans, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've seen like there was the drone example. I don't know did you hear about that?
No.
So it was basically drone operators. It was simulated, but it was AI drone operators that have the oversight of a human being, but AI is basically directing the drone. And when the human said, "Okay, turn yourself off or shut it down" or whatever, it started trying to attack where the human was.
Right.
And again, this
Don't
is
tell me what
simulator,
to do.
and then started taking out communications towers, bombing, to try to not be able to be told what to do. It was fucking scary.
It's super scary. Well, on the deep fake side, what we're looking at too is like there's been a lot. I mean, the FBI has been putting out like warnings recently about both deep fakes and sextortion. Right, which is like what you can now. This is bizarre, but like 2023 is the year of AI, right? But all this stuff is really coming about like right now. But you could take somebody's photo of their face or the photo of their body, but you could basically make a deep fake where now it's make it into a pornographic image.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that, but I've seen deep fakes of other prominent public figures or political figures where, like, because of what's happening, it's not real.
Right.
But you're like, holy shit, if I couldn't put those two pieces together of like,
right.
I know Joe Biden isn't standing on the fucking moon without, without a
right.
spacesuit, but fucking Christ, it looks just like he is, and it's crazy.
And they can do voice and image and now video.
And it's seamless.
And it's seamless. And so you're hearing this voice that is a known voice, or a face that's a known face, and you would think that it's super legit.
Yeah.
And
which is frightening. So I guess that leads me to wonder then, for this technology that you guys are developing, is there room for error, or are there mistakes? How does the program work? And maybe this is beyond the scope of this interview, but if there's deep fakes or enough bullshit that isn't even real out on the internet, or does, like, how do you keep it from making mistakes of identifying, hey, this person is a sex trafficker, or this person is a sex trafficked minor, and they're actually not? Like, is there a check and balance internally with the program, or how does that work?
Yes, and I would say a lot of that's in the ones and zeros above me, but I mean, our third partner is a technologist, and those are the things that our analysts are helping to build into it, because those are real problems. I mean, on one level, you have a problem of like, well, is this a false positive?
Yeah.
So is it Mike's phone number? Well, if your phone number is in a sex ad, then chances are you're getting phone calls, like a lot of them, asking about it or texting you or whatever. But so if it's an email or phone number or a social handle, it's probably actually, being used to advertise for sex. So we look at it a lot like a credit check, So if you are, we're collecting what's out there on the web.
I got you.
And then we're organizing it, and we're saying, now we're making it accessible, but it's out there. So if it's not you, then you would probably want to know that that's out there. And just like a LifeLock scenario,
sure,
you would probably want it removed somehow. And so on the sextortion side, that's a really interesting place that we go, because, kids are actually committing suicide because they're so traumatized about the fact that they might have a nude photo or something out there that could be exposed. And so we've seen these cases. Yeah. And so if you could say, well, here's a platform that we know if your photo ends up anywhere on these commercial sex sites that are advertising for sex, we can look at that and we can see if your photo's out there, and then we can actually take steps to get that removed.
Yeah.
You may also prevent a suicide.
Sure. And I suppose because my first inclination was like similar with like swatting and spoofing, and if somebody decided like, hey, I want to try to fuck this person over, so I'm gonna create a fake not persona, but try to make somebody that I don't like look like they're going to hit on your radar.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like the data, because it's so widely collected, is that you'd have to actually be doing it for it to pop up enough to be created as a person. Is that
correct? And our machine learning and AI has taken a piece of this too, because yes, we're looking at like, is this a commercial sex ad? But we're also looking, does this have indicators of human trafficking? What are those known indicators? What is the attribution of that? What is the score of that?
Yeah.
And then is that accurate, right? So it is cross-referencing amongst other advertisements and other data to help verify that. But those are things that we have to make sure that we build into this as well as we go, because, I'm not the technologist by any means, and thank God there's those kinds of people, because technology is changing so fast.
Yeah.
Just look at where we are again from 5 years ago to now, and
it's crazy.
Again, people say 2023 is like the year of AI. We got Chat GPT, we got all these other things, and it's coming out so fast. Jasper is a AI platform that you can generate your own marketing content. It's crazy the things that are out there just this year and how fast that's going.
Yeah. I know.
So
I know it's fucking spooky. You can't keep up with it. So can you talk a little bit about like the actual product in terms of how it works? I know you've kind of described the process, but as far as like for the concerned parent listening right now, it's like, fuck, I want to know more. Like, what would you tell them in terms of like, this is how it works?
Yeah. So again, access at really mainly three different points: an enterprise level access, of which we can integrate into whatever system, and we can have our, whatever customized user interface they want to have for that access and that data. The small business and really like the small business and the direct to consumer is through our mobile app. And so you pay, there's a free version too, where you'll have some access to some information and just super basics. But then we have like the version where you pay like $7 a month. And currently, like our product as it comes out will be where you can type in a phone number or an email or a social handle, and you can run it against all your contacts and see if anybody, is red flagged in there. As we mature on this roadmap, we've got where we're going to have, I think it would be called like an OCR type technology, where it basically monitors what you look at on your phone. So you give permissions for it to monitor if you're on Snapchat or you're on Instagram or any of these other, and whoever you're interacting with, if any of the information from those people you're interacting with would red flag in our database, you're going to get an alert. And that alert's going to say, hey, this person you're interacting with is red flagged in this commercial sex advertising database with a score of this for potential human trafficking. We're not going to say this is a human trafficker, but we're going to say there's a risk here. You really might want to rethink who you're interacting with and at least know that that's a real possibility.
Yeah.
Because another thing that we talked about for years is like, if you're a girl and somebody's laying
how do you know I'm not?
Well, back to
you can be whatever you want nowadays.
The other thing that's happened in the last 5 years is nobody can define what a woman is.
I can.
Yeah.
It's an adult female. That's it.
Yeah. So, what a crazy place to.
Sorry, I didn't mean to fucking
derail
everybody.
But, so anyways, we're, that's where we're at.
Yeah. Well, so the scoring system, is it like a 0 to 10 or like what is the rating system? How does it?
We're kind of defining that right now, but yeah, it's going to be on a level of 0 to 10 or 1 to 100% kind of deal.
I got you.
But we may have that internally, but it also might just be a low, medium, high risk.
Yeah. 0 to 100, 98.7% chance, and I'll take the Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance they might not be.
Chance.
They may not be.
Yeah.
That's wild. So in terms of timeline of I'm assuming it's not available yet, or is it?
So our app is going to Apple Store in the next week or two.
Oh, no shit.
But we're gonna take a little bit of time to get it beta tested, so that we're probably 2 months out from going live with that, we think. So
when this airs, it'll be within a few weeks then, probably. Which is awesome. We were talking during the break about kind of the cascade, I guess, of from the very top level of government to corporations, and one of your partners brought up a good point in that these corporations should want to keep these people off of their platforms and should want to mitigate facilitating sex trafficking through their platforms, and I think like with banks being mandated to do certain things security wise and reporting certain things, I think this falls into that same category. It just makes sense that they should want to do it, but they should also be mandated to do it.
Correct. I believe that we're moving that direction. We talked about things politicians can do, and I think we can even help work with them to get them to mandate the right kind of data into some of these, corporations utilizing that. But we're coming at it from two approaches, right? We're coming at it from the top-down approach, put it in the hands of this enterprise level, whether it's a government or a corporation. And to your point, like banks already have to fill out suspicious activity reports, if it's suspect of any kind of illicit activity, and within that report, there's a check mark, for the last few years, there's a check mark box that says, is this human trafficking related? Well, how would they know? Well, they can know by being a consumer of our data. But also, these other corporations, whether it's, we intend to work with dating apps because there's hundreds of millions of people worldwide on dating apps, and they're going to want to know that who they're interacting with is not a potential predator, right? If you're getting in a ride share, like an Uber, you want to know that that person that's driving it is not a threat. Yeah. And also, if you're the driver, you want to make sure, I mean, how would you feel if you knew that you had taken somebody to go get raped?
Yeah, I mean, to me, like there's only the only people that wouldn't be behind this are the people that are doing it. You know, right. I mean, to me, like any sane, logical person, whether they're a business owner, a parent, just a concerned citizen, for all of these things. I mean, and especially in today's day and age where we live in such a faux outrage, cancel this fucking guy because he had the wrong opinion on something. Like, if there's no other reason to fucking not do business with people, like this is it, you know? I mean, so to me, like, it seems like it could be such an effective way to kind of funnel or like smoke out the fucking rats of this industry, because they have an inability to hide then and in plain sight the way that they've been doing. And if everybody's like, well, I'm not fucking doing business with this guy, or, you know, I mean, whatever the platform is or whatever entity you're talking about, if it has an ability to highlight the people that are involved in this, like from a cat and mouse standpoint, it takes a lot of that bullshit out of the equation.
They should. I mean, if they're not willing to participate in doing the right thing in this kind of situation, they're highlighting themselves as a target.
Yeah,
or should be investigated.
Yeah, yeah. It's like if you're not willing to implement this into your platform, your business, your company, your family, why?
Yeah,
like you're complicit then at that point.
It's so like it's harder than you think, right? But it's a topic that goes across party lines and should be, like, if anything, the last apolitical issue that we should all go. And I think in some point right now too, like some of the things have been happening in schools. You've had people who've they've taken it all the way along until they go, wait a minute, you're talking about my children and you're talking about doing things to my children and grooming my children in a way that I'm not okay with, then I'm going to make the stand there. Yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're all supposed to be saying, is like, we're trying to protect our children. We're trying to protect the next generation. Yeah. We're trying to protect humanity. I mean, our motto is protecting humanity through, you know, safety and transparency, you know, the kind of deal, right? Because this is for all of humanity. Yeah. Like, if you are against this, then you are the problem.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, I would say that overwhelmingly we can all agree that we want to protect our kids. Where I think some people in this country would give this pushback, just again playing devil's advocate and wanting to know how you would respond to it, because I have no doubt that there will be a portion of the population that may take this position, is they can't agree on what protecting our kids looks like, you know, because for a lot of people, even the word grooming, like, I know how I feel about that, and I know what that looks like, or what I feel that looks like. There's other people that think that that's normal and cool and should be embraced, or even encouraged. From a box checking standpoint, or from a qualification standpoint within the app, is it either explained in terms of checking this box, this box, this box, this box, that's what contributes to the overall rating? Is that like a proprietary algorithm, or is that clearly defined so that people can say, okay, he checks these boxes and I'm worried about that? Because for the consumer that may say, like let's say it's a trans thing or something like that, they may scoff at it or be like, well, I don't think that's a fucking problem, so, you know, this is a bullshit score or whatever. Like, how do you navigate or mitigate the naysayers as far as stuff like that goes?
Yeah, so the scoring system is like just a caveat on top of the fact that they've already been shown to be in commercial sex advertising. So, like, that's enough to say, like, this person has a risk because they're associated with commercial sex advertising, which is an illicit activity. So, like, that's the real risk. And so if you're a bank, that's all you need, right? Yeah. If you're an individual consumer, and you're like, well, let's say I'm an Airbnb owner, and I'm like, well, okay, so this person is associated with commercial sex, but like, how big is the risk? Or if I have that Airbnb and I don't want to get a bad rating from Airbnb, the platform, I want to be able to say, well, they're associated, but this is also why. Here's the X, Y, and Z of why it was scored. So like this. We can provide it at different levels of granularity.
That's cool.
Right.
So like a credit check, or like your credit score has changed. Here's why it's changed.
Yeah.
It'll have that kind of amplifying info of what contributes to the score, and then people can make their own conclusion.
Yep.
Okay, that's awesome. To me, that solves any fucking problem from any pushback that you'd have, because like
you got to upgrade for that.
Yeah,
it's upgrade.
That's extra. But yeah, I mean, because that's the unfortunate reality of the world we live in, is that it only takes like one loudmouth to say that company's anti-trans because they took this position. It's like the "don't say gay" thing in Florida, right? It's like that wasn't even what it was about, but people were pissed, and so they used, basically not a nefarious, but like a bullshit workaround to say that it was something that it wasn't. I mean, I would hate to see something that's this good and well thought out and valuable get hamstrung over something stupid like that, where some fraction of a percentage group of people decides that well, I don't want you to cut my business out, so I'm just going to say that you guys are doing this, this, and this, and try to fuck your business up because of it.
There's no guarantees that won't happen, but I also feel like, just as it's become with the whole censorship of anything you say today, somebody can spin it and they want to tear you down or whatever. So I mean, my policy is this: like, you do the right thing for the right reason at the right time, and let the chips fall where they are, whether it's business, whether it's talking to somebody about your faith or your diet or whatever it is. Like, just do the right thing, the right time, and live your life in that way. And somebody may come and say, hey, you're hurting my business, so I'm going to throw a big stink over here and generate a bunch of controversy. And eventually, I think if you do the right thing, you live that honest life, and you keep high integrity in your life and your business, I think eventually the truth comes out. It might take a sting for a while to your business. I'm less concerned about that than I am just doing the right thing for the right reason.
Yeah. Fuck, amen.
So,
awesome stuff. Where can people find this and learn more about it and support you guys and ultimately buy the app and get involved?
So the app is called SpydrWeb, and Caim Technology is the company, and so we've got social media accounts up for Caim Tech or Caim.tech right now is the website. We've got. Are we going to have a SpydrWeb website coming up pretty soon too? So we'll have to give you the link for that.
Yeah, we'll have all that shit in the description.
Some of those things are just coming up right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we'll have all the amplifying info in the description. For those that are just listening to the audio, go to the YouTube for those links, or they'll be in the description, when you actually hit play on whatever audio platform you're on. But man, this is exciting shit. It's great to catch back up with you. I'm super proud to know you and know all that you have going on and what you've been involved with. This is great, man. Anything else you want to bring up before we wrap up?
What's the most important line you had in your book?
Unfuck America?
Unfornicate the world. Yeah.
Most important line? I'd say mind your own fucking business. I mean, it is.
It's a good one. It's a good libertarian way to live, right?
Yeah, there's, I think it's in chapter 4. I think it's page 96, 97. In bold, like there's a short list of things that, on a principled level, that I say are important things to live by, and one of them is mind your own fucking business. Yeah, I think it's hard to go wrong if you just mind your own fucking business. Having said that, there's a dichotomy, I guess, or a duality or double-edged sword that exists with that, and that that does not mean stand around and do nothing when atrocities are being committed. That's more the day-to-day, not being a nosy fuck and worried about what everybody else is doing that doesn't impact you. Obviously, stuff like this impacts our entire society and humanity for that matter. But I would hope, that most people can look at that and understand what the principle is behind it. Unfortunately, some people can't, and they like to make a pain in the ass out of everything. But yeah, that would be my take on it.
It's usually the loud few that get the attention, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And we give them the attention, and we let them drive policy and everything else.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And as we close out here, in keeping in tradition with the Mic Drop podcast, parting gifts. Champion Choice Silver and John Johnson hooking the guests up with a parting gift to commemorate your time here on the show. Obviously, we've got the challenge coin with the Mic Drop logo and the team dog on the back, and then that's especially you being up in Montana.
It's going to go great. I got my boots on.
Throw that on with your shit kickers. Yeah,
made a Western shirt for the company. Yeah. It's going to go well with everything. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, if you can show that to the camera real quick, just so they can see, because there's a few different ones, but yeah. Appreciate Champion Choice Silver and John Johnson. So thank you guys, and I hope you enjoy. Thanks for coming. Great stuff, man. I appreciate you taking the time to come down. Again, I'm proud of everything that you have going on, and please, for everybody listening, this is obviously fucking hugely important. Our kids are what's going to drive the country, and either embrace it and move it forward, or let it crumble and fucking cease to exist. So as Ronald Reagan said, democracy is only one generation from extinction. So if you don't take care of our kids and both protect them, number one, and two, teach them how to be productive members of society, then our country ceases to exist, Roman Empire style. So thanks again for coming. Anything you want to add?
Thanks for having me. Appreciate the shout out, and good to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you listening, I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, choke yourself. And until next time, this is Mic Drop.